Hi everybody, it's Nikki here and welcome to today's video, which is my June reading wrap up. This is where I give you all my thoughts and opinions on the books that I read throughout June. I will not be giving you synopses for these books because I give the synopses during my Bookgammon TBR game video, so I will link that for you in the description box below. So let's get straight to it and give you my thoughts and opinions. So the first book that I read was Salinity Cove by Nicole. This is a bind up of the 3 books that make the series for Salinity Cove. So you can get these books individually or the bind up is available on Amazon. My thoughts on this says, Mermaids Smut. Senior year students' bullying turns into reverse harem. Sadly, no male action, but plot was good. To be honest, it's the merman element that bumps up the score for me. And I gave this one 4 stars. Yeah, for me, this was very much high school kind of bullying turned into them into a reverse harem, basically. So female with 3 males. And the reason why they are bullying her is because her dad is responsible for an oil spill accident or something, and so they take it upon themselves to bully her. And yeah, I think for me, I did kind of have to check, because being from the UK, I was looking at these kids being in high school, being 16, and I thought, 16? Reverse harem? I don't feel comfortable with that one. But then I looked up American high school and they can be sort of 17, 18-year-olds. So please correct me if I'm wrong on that, anybody from the US. But high school in the US, their senior year, they're 17, 18. I think, because that would make it a little bit better, but still, I was just like, I like smut, but I like it to be adult smut, not like she was a virgin before when this story began, and by the end of it, she's definitely not anymore. So yeah, that kind of was a little bit icky for me, and probably is the reason why I didn't get a 5-star. But I thoroughly enjoyed the story. I thoroughly enjoyed all the bits about you know, trying to save the oceans and trying to do what's best for the oceans and all of that sort of thing in there. And normally high school angst and drama really does not do it for me, because obviously I'm way past that period of my life now, and it's been so long ago I can't relate anymore. So normally that really bothers me, but in this one it didn't, and I think it's because we didn't spend too long in the high school. We do get some like underwater kind of merman sort of action in here, and I really like that. So yeah, this wasn't all above ground on land in the high school. There was a lot of like in the water actual thing, and yeah, I really liked the way that it was developed, and yeah, it was a really good book. Really enjoyed it. So 4 stars. My keywords are basically mermaids, bullying and reverse harem. So do be aware of that bullying sort of triggery thing. Not bad bullying, but just, you know, high school bullying. So if that's a trigger for you, do be aware of that. Ooh. The next book I read was Painted Devils by Margaret Owen. This is the sequel to Little Thieves, was it? Yeah, Little Thieves, which I read back in May. I really enjoyed this one as well. I gave this one 4 stars as well. My notes say, love the new plot line while still adhering to the overall story. Love the dynamics of the new characters, the travelling and the relationships being developed. That ending though, why do we have to wait another year? Yeah, when I went into this, I thought this was going to be a bit like Margaret Owen's duology of The Merciful Crow, thinking that this was a duology, thinking that I was going to be read both books in 2 months and done. But no, this is going to be a trilogy, and I am crying now that I have to wait another year for the finale for this, because that ending, I was like, what's happening here? Because I honestly did think this was going to wrap up a duology. But the ending had me like, what? There's a third book? And I was just like, oh no, what have I done? This is why books sit on my shelves for so long, because I don't like being left with cliffhangers. I just don't like it. I'd rather wait, get all the books out and then read them so that I can go from one to the other if I need to. And believe me, I really needed to get to the third book after I read this one. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So for me, Margaret Owen is going to become a auto-buy author, because I have not read a single thing from her that I haven't enjoyed. I love The Merciful Crow. I loved, what was the second one of that duology? The Faithless Hawk. I loved Little Thieves. I loved Painted Devils. I did give it 4 stars. My keywords are dealing with trauma, family, and lies. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I like the fact that at the beginning of this story, even though Little Thieves ended up with kind of these two couples coming together, the second book, it dealt with the fact that she's traumatized, and so she doesn't trust very easily. And so even though she supposedly got her happily ever after at the end of book 1, at the start of book 2 we realise that actually happily ever after is a lie in itself, because there's always going to be something, like there's always going to be new obstacles to overcome, new differences to overcome and deal with. And yeah, I just really loved that. It just felt so relatable and so normal almost, and I liked that. I really liked that. So yeah, auto by author now Margaret Owen has become, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this one. We have false gods. We get a bit more of her family dynamics in this one as well, which we got a hint of in the first book. But this book we get more about our main character's family in this, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it. The next book was my Waterstones book club pick, and it was one that I'd actually picked because this cover and the synopsis really drew me in. It's Dr. No by Percival Everett, and if you're thinking, well, that sounds like a James Bond movie, it's very much inspired by James Bond, and it reads like a James Bond movie as well. But I said some of it strangely made logical sense to me, but most of it went over my head. Was a good book to discuss at book club. So yeah, basically it's a book about nothing, basically. And there's a lot of mathematics in here. I believe that our main character is autistic, and some of his logical thinking kind of made sense to me. And it had me up till about possibly the last third of it. I was intrigued by it, but confused by it. But everything was okay until the last quarter, and then it kind of just developed into a romance, and I was like, oh well, now you've lost me. So it only got 2 stars from me. It got mixed reviews at the book club. Nobody thoroughly enjoyed it. Everybody gave it on average 2 to 3 stars. Some people even DNF'd it. So yeah, it wasn't very well received at book club, but it was definitely, if you love James Bond, you'll probably enjoy this more. Or if you like that kind of mathematical sort of logical thinking, you may enjoy this. But yeah, not actually for me in the end. So mathematical, James Bond parody and disability rep were my keywords for this one, for 2 stars. The next book I read was A Mills and Boone by Annie Burroughs, Captain Corcoran's Hoyden Bride. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I gave it 3 stars, and my notes say old-fashioned historical romance with a lot of miscommunication. Well, at least it ended happily ever after. Yeah, he kind of tricks her into coming to his property. She believes to take on the role as governess to his children, only to find out he has no children. He has no intention of having any children at the moment. He just wants a bride, and she is on the run and figures, you know what better way to hide than under somebody else's name. And look, it's historical romance, it's Mills and Boone, we know where it's all going. It was fun while I read it. My notes are historical, miscommunication and happily ever after. So not much to say about it. If you're a feminist type, doesn't like, you know, being tricked and lied to by a man, you're probably not going to like this one. It's full of tropes that most feminists nowadays would frown upon. But you know, I enjoyed it. It was good fun. It was a good read, quick read. So yeah, not much to say about that. The next one was Dragonstorm, from the Dragonstorm series, should I say, Myra and Flameteller by Alistair Chisholm. This is book 4? Yeah, book 4 in the Dragonstorm series. It's only a little middle grade. My husband is currently still reading the first book and he's thoroughly enjoying it, so I'm very happy for that. My notes on this says, interesting lesson about adults learning from children. A quick and fun read. Yes, in each of Alistair Chisholm's books, I've noticed there's always a lesson to be learned. And in this one, we learn that sometimes adults need to stop and listen to children, because children see the world in a very different light to the way adults see the world. We can become quite jaded. We can become quite pessimistic. But it's sometimes if we just stop and listen to children, they see the world in a much different way, a much more simpler way. They're not so affected by a lifetime of bad experiences or trauma or anything. And sometimes children do know better than adults on occasion. So I liked that. I liked that sometimes as adults we need to stop and just listen to our children. We will learn so much more about what they're going through, what they require from us as adults, if we just stop and take a breath. And I loved that. And this is why Alistair Chisholm is also an auto-buy author for me, because I will buy whatever he publishes because I love his books so much. And this is why I believe that as adults we should be reading children's stories, because they do give us these lessons that we as adults completely forget because we're so busy being adults. And just taking that moment to learn this really good lesson, it really, you know, it speaks to my heart. So I love this. I gave it 3 stars because obviously it is a middle grade. It's a very young middle grade. So for me, I want in a bit more in my story, but it's the life lessons that I love in these books. My keywords are mechanics, problem solving, and adults learning from children. So yeah. If you've got a child who is very mechanical, likes to know how things are built, this book is a really great one for your young child. So yeah, sit and read it with them one night and just take a moment with your children. I loved reading stories to my children when they were younger. It's one of my favourite memories of me and my children when they were kids. Okay. Moving on, the next book I read was Monsters Born and Made by Tanvi Burwar. My notes on this say, similar to Maggie Stiefvater's Scorpio Races, with a mix of Hunger Games. Enjoyed the characters and politics, but it just needed more world building and possibly needs a sequel. Yeah, for this one, I looked on Goodreads. It doesn't look like there's going to be a sequel. It's not numbered or anything. There isn't a series title for this or anything. So it does look like it's going to be a standalone. I don't know. But I would like a continuation of this story because it did feel like the ending had enough to come back to. But yeah, extremely similar to Scorpio Races. We have these creatures that our main character, her family are responsible for capturing these creatures from the sea and then training them and then selling them to the elite of this world to race and take part in trials, and then the winner gets like a massive money prize or whatever. Only the elites have ever taken part in these trials, but nothing has in the rules says that the more common people can't take part. And unfortunately, our main character, her family are going through difficult times, so she decides to take part, and obviously the other elite competitors are out to get her, and they're not the only ones either. It was good. I enjoyed it, and actually it made me want to watch the Hunger Games because I love the Hunger Games films. So me and my husband actually watched the Hunger Games films because this one made me want to watch them. So I did really enjoy it. So if you enjoy the Hunger Games and Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater, then you will probably enjoy this one. It's only a short one, and I do wish there was a bit more to it, but as it was a good book. I really enjoyed it. Gave it 3 stars. My keywords are tournament, family, and friendship. The next one I read was an ebook on my Kindle. This is a Kindle Unlimited book, I believe, and it's called Havoc Killed Her Alpha. I'll put the author, I think it's Marie McKay. Yeah, Marie McKay. I ended up having to read this one because I read book 2, I believe, back in May, I want to say. So I decided to go back and read book 1 in June, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. This is another reverse harem. I'm really getting into those reverse harem guys. Loving it. My notes say Havoc's character is traumatized by her past, which stops her from being accepted by her pack. But it seems they're all carrying their own trauma, and when they realise they have that in common, their pack can finally begin to heal. Yeah, that's pretty much basically what this book is about. It's about healing. It's about discovering that they all have a similar trauma in their lives, and they're healing through their commonality in that trauma. So she has killed their pack leader, but she's actually scent matched to their pack, and so at first they try to reject her, but a couple of the pack say no, she's scent matched to us, so she should stay, and it just goes from there. I love this world. There's a couple more books in the series, so I will be continuing with it. I really enjoyed it, and if you like your reverse harem books as well, I should imagine you'll probably enjoy this book too. My notes say my keywords are trauma, belonging, and family. But not least, the viewer's choice of the best of 3 books that I let you choose. All of Us Villains by Manda Foodie and Christine Lynn Herman was the one that was picked, so that's the one that I read. So all of us villains, my notes say, again, similar to Hunger Games, yes, but here we take too long to get to know the characters, and then once in the Blood Veil, well, not much happens other than a lot of talking. Even 40 pages before the end, I would happily put it down and eat my tea. Still going to read the next book though, because I own it. So yeah, I don't know what it was with this one. I did end up giving it 3 stars. I just felt like we spent an awfully long time of this book before the trials and going around the different families and their different victors, I suppose, preparing for these trials. And then eventually, about halfway, 2/3 through the book, we finally get into the trial. And the whole point of the trial is that they are locked into this area underneath the Blood Veil, and they cannot leave the Blood Veil, and nobody else can get into the Blood Veil to intervene. And then things happen, and that rule goes completely out the door. And it was just like all the rules that we'd been told at the beginning of the book and throughout that first half of the book were completely forgotten once they actually got into the tournament. And there was a lot of alliances, nobody was getting killed. I mean, at least in the Hunger Games, a few of the villains got, a few of the people got killed straight off, or, every other chapter there was another killing or whatever. And I'm not saying I'm waiting for the killings, but in this one, even when one of them did kill, they felt sorry about it. And I get it, like, they're kids, they don't want to kill each other. This is something that they're forced to do, but like, at least with the Hunger Games, it was more about survival. They wanted to survive and they killed to survive. But in this one, they're so hesitant, and they're so, like, even though this is how they've grown up, because in this world, these blood veils only happen every 20 years. And some of them have been raised to be the victor of their family. They just didn't have any fight in them. They just all seemed a bit pathetic almost. As I say, I will read book 2 because I own book 2, and I don't know if there's a 3rd book coming or not. But it's somebody from on the back has written a thing. Both glittering with magic and drenched in blood, all of us villains kept me up at night with its heart-pounding pace and layered mysteries. I'll be waiting for book 2 with bated breath and bitten nails. What book did she read? Because I did not feel that way at all. As I say, I was 40 pages before the end, and Scott brought my tea up for me that he'd kindly cooked, and I happily went, oh, okay then, and I sat and ate my tea. Whereas before, I've been 40 pages to the end of a book and my tea's arrived and I couldn't put a book down because I was so intrigued by it that I would keep reading while I was eating. But with this one, I happily put it down. I happily took the break from it. I wasn't intrigued by it. I certainly didn't find it drenched in blood or heart-pounding pace or anything like that. It was just, there was no oomph to it. There was no danger level to it. Nobody was in any danger at any point in this. And even, as I say, when one person does die, it wasn't even that, like, I don't know. I'm confused by it completely. So, yeah, unfortunately, that just got 3 stars from me. Keywords for it was tournament, family, and curses. So that's that. So moving on to the statistics. The total books I read was 8. The physical pages I read was 2,204. The ebook pages I read was 476. The audio book hours that I listened to, that I own a physical copy of the book, was 6 hours and 22. That was Dr. No. I listened to that on audio. And there was 0 hours of any books that I borrowed on audio. The rating of the books, I had no 5 stars this month, so no books blew me out of the water. Unfortunately, I had 3 4 stars, 4 3 stars, 1 2 star, no books 1 star, and I did DNF 1 book. I DNF'd, what was it? It was an ebook, The Best Friend Bargain. Oh my god, I only got maybe 10-20 pages into it, and I know you're gonna say, Nicola, that's not really enough for you to really get into it. It was a struggle to get to those pages. I just couldn't deal with it. I couldn't read it. And it's because was it this one? I think it was this one, where you know how when somebody gives you a look and you're like, oh, you know, and the look has a meaning to it. Well, in this one, it was saying what the meaning was, and it was just like, it was constant. It was absolutely constant. I just could not cope with it. I just could not read it. It was just so bad. I got rid of it. I just could not read it. So I DNF'd. Not too bothered about that. The genre of the books I read, there were no thrillers, no classics, no mangas or graphic novels, no non-fiction, but there was 3 contemporaries, 1 middle grade, and 4 fantasy or sci-fi. So I'm really getting into my contemporaries this year, it seems. I'm reading a lot more contemporaries this year than in previous years, that's for sure. The origin of the books I read, 1 was borrowed. That was the audio book that I listened to. No, 1 was borrowed, which was the ebook, because it was from Kindle Unlimited, and then 7 books I owned. I counted Dr. No. Even though I listened to it on audio, I do own the physical copy, so technically I do own that. The format of the books I read 6 physically, 1 ebookily, and 1 audibly. The binding of the physical books that I owned, 3 are hardback and 4 are paperback. And the gender of the authors, 2 were male and 6 were female. The longest book I read was the bind-up of Salinity Cove at a total of 541 pages. The shortest book I read was Myra and Flameteller at 151 pages. The oldest book I read was Captain Corcoran's Hoyden Bride, which was published in April 2012. The newest book I read was Painted Devils, which was published in May 2023. I'll keep hold of Painted Devils because it was also the highest rated on Goodreads at the time of taking these notes, with a rating of 4.43. The lowest rated was Myra and Flameteller, unfortunately, with a rating of 3.00, which is not bad. It's still a 3 stars. It is the 4th book in the series, so that could have something to do with it, possibly. My least favourite book, not including the DNF because I didn't technically read it, or finish it, should I say. But my least favourite was Dr. No. It just went over my head with all of the mathematics at the beginning and all the scientific-y bits, and then lost me at the end with the romance. And my most favourite book of the month was actually the ebook, Havoc Killed Her Alpha. I'm loving these reverse harem books, guys. I'm just really thoroughly enjoying the dynamics of the relationships. They're not just all sex. There's always a plot going on with these books as well. And yeah, the smut level is intense. So when you've read as many like smutty romance novels as I have, at some point, like any kind of drug, you kind of need something that's a little bit stronger to get the same buzz as you used to. And so leveling up into reverse harems is kind of my better drug, I suppose. So I'm loving it. I am thoroughly enjoying the series. So yeah, I will probably read the next book in that series very soon. So that is it. That is my reading wrap up for June. Are there any books that I read this month that has piqued your interest now that you know my thoughts and opinions on them? Or have I put you off reading any of these books? Please don't let that happen, because just because I don't enjoy something doesn't mean that you won't enjoy them. You might. I know someone who every time I say I enjoy books, she's like, yeah, I probably won't enjoy that. And when I say, oh, I hated that book, they'll go, oh, I'll pick that up. I'll probably enjoy it. Because our reading does happen to be in exact opposites of each other. So yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you know, I read a few good books in June. Nothing that was like wow, but yeah, I had a good time. So yeah, that is my reading wrap up. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.